So students, many a times when you go for faraway places, you might have heard your parents saying that how is the environment over there, how is the weather over there, and how are the people, those who are present in that particular place, right? They ask you so many questions, right? So why they ask is, when they ask these questions, you might have noticed that they are relating to both living things as well as non-living things. So environment includes both living as well as non-living things. It includes non-living things like desk, bench, stone, wood, and living things like people, dog, cat, etc. So the next important term that we are going to study in this particular chapter is ecosystem. Ecosystem is a self-contained unit which contains both living things as well as non-living things. As I told earlier, living things means the things that has life. Example, human beings, cow, cat, dog, etc. And non-living things means the ones which do not have life, like bench, desk, chalk, etc. So here, ecosystem, it's self-contained unit of living and non-living things in environment. And here, you have to note down one more important point, that is, in ecosystem, there is a relationship between living and non-living things. You can find a relationship between these two things. There are two types of ecosystem. The first type is natural ecosystem and the second type is artificial ecosystem. As the name itself says, natural means this ecosystem is natural. We have not created it, it is created automatically by nature, right? That is why it is called as natural. And the example for this particular ecosystem is pond, sea, forest. All these are example for natural ecosystem. And next is artificial ecosystem. So this is the reverse of natural ecosystem. Artificial ecosystem is created by human beings. We have created it. It has not occurred naturally. And the types of artificial ecosystem, or the examples for artificial ecosystem, are crop fields, aquarium. So these are the examples of artificial ecosystem. You all know that you might be having aquarium at home, right? So it includes all kinds of fishes, artificial plants, stones, etc. It's not natural. We are going to create it. That is why it is called as artificial ecosystem. I hope you understood the types of ecosystem. One is natural and one more is artificial. Now we'll study about components of ecosystem. There are two main components of ecosystem. The first component is biotic component and the second component is abiotic component. So the first one, biotic, you can see the name bio. Bio means life. So these components have life, like human beings, again all kinds of animals, plants, microorganisms, etc. All these things comes under biotic components. And next comes the abiotic components. See, abiotic, it means it is the reverse of biotic component. Abiotic component means it does not have life. And the example for biotic component is human beings are examples, and all kinds of animals, plants, all these things comes under biotic components. Next comes abiotic components. Abiotic components, as I told, they do not have life. So the example for abiotic components are sand, stone, light, so temperature, all these things which do not have life comes under abiotic component. Now let's study biotic components in detail. So there are three types of biotic components: producers, consumers, and decomposers. Now see the first type, that is producers. Producers means they have the capacity to synthesize their own food. If they have the capacity to synthesize their own food, then they are also called as autotrophs. What are they called as? They are called as autotrophs because they have the capacity to produce their own food. So the example for this producers are green plants and blue-green alga. This is about producers. Now we all know that usually plants, what do? they absorb the solar energy and then they convert it into chemical energy in their plant body, right, by using the green pigment called as chlorophyll. So by this method they convert the solar energy into chemical energy and thus food is produced. During this process, whatever solar energy they are going to absorb, out of that solar energy only 1% of the solar energy is used for synthesizing food. This is the important part here. Only 1% of the solar energy is used by the plants to produce food. This is about producers. Next comes consumers. See, the term itself says consumers. So they do not have the capacity to synthesize their own food. They depend on producers for their food, either directly or indirectly. Just see here. Now this is plants. So now, if there is a cow and it will automatically feed on the plant, right? So directly it is going to eat that particular plant. Now if there is a tiger, it will eat the cow. So it has an indirect relationship here. It doesn't have any direct relationship with the plant, but cow has the direct relationship with the plant. So in consumers, they either directly have a relationship with the producers or they indirectly depend on the producers. In consumers, there are a variety of organisms. The first type is herbivores. Herbivores are also called as primary consumers because they directly feed on the producers. That is why they are called as primary consumers. And the example for herbivores are cow, goat, sheep, etc. So herbivores are plant-eating animals. They do not eat animals, but they feed only on green plants. That is why they are called as primary consumers. Next comes carnivores. So carnivores, they are flesh eaters. They do not eat green plants, they are flesh eaters. And the example for carnivores are lion, tiger, cheetah. All these are the example for carnivores. Even in this carnivore, students, there are two types. One is small carnivores and one more is large carnivores. Small carnivores means they are fox or lizard. All these are small carnivores. And next comes one more category, that is large. Large carnivores means they feed on these small carnivores, and the types of large carnivores are, or the examples are tiger, lion. All these are called as tertiary consumers. Now see, this herbivores are called as primary consumers. Now next comes the carnivores. In carnivores there are two types. One is small carnivores and one more is large carnivores. Small carnivores are called as secondary consumers and large carnivores are called as tertiary consumers. So these tertiary consumers, they have the capacity to feed on the secondary consumers, and secondary consumers feed on the primary consumers, and primary consumers feed on the producers. So this is the relationship between the consumers and the producers. Now there is one more type here, that is omnivores. Omnivores means they feed both on plants and animals. Here carnivores, they are specifically flesh eaters, and herbivores, they are very specifically plant eaters. But omnivores, they feed on both plants as well as animals. And the best example for this is we human beings. Even crow comes under carnivores. So after omnivorous, the next type is parasites. So these are the organisms that live in the host body. They cannot live independently. They do not have the capacity to live independently. That is why parasites lives in the host body to obtain their food. And even for shelter, they depend on the host body. The example for parasites are lice, cuscuta. So these organisms are the examples for parasites. Now let's study about decomposers. So decomposers, they are also called as saprotropes or micro-consumers. So these decomposers, they do not have the capacity to prepare their own food. What they do is, they will feed on the dead and decaying matter. The process here is very simple. They decompose the organic matter that is present in dead plants and in animals. And after that, because of this, various kinds of substances are released, like ammonia, carbon dioxide, etc. So they absorb the required substances for themselves, and rest of the substances will be given out to the air, land, water, etc. And because of this, the cycle continues. What happens? The ammonia and the carbon dioxide will be used by the producers again. So the cycle is maintained because of the presence of decomposers. So decomposers are the organisms which do not have the capacity to synthesize their own food. They depend on the dead and decaying matter. They will decompose the organic matter, and the simple substances like ammonia and carbon dioxide is produced. Next topic is food chain. So here, this food chain explains about the sequence of living organisms in a community in which one organism consumes another to transfer food energy is called as food chain. So food chain is basically one organism eating another organism. So here, one organism consuming another organism is nothing but food chain, and in food chain the transfer of food energy takes place from one organism to another organism. See students, this is very simple. Now if you are standing in a place and if you are not doing any work, still you will be hungry, right? You want energy to do any kind of work. That is why you will eat. So when you are eating, you are going to get the energy that is required. So the energy that is required for you is obtained from the thing that you are going to eat, right? So from there the energy is transferred from that plate which contains food. From there the food energy is transferred to you. So this particular sequence is called as food chain. Now you are going to feed on the goat. You are going to eat goat. Okay, that goat has eaten the plant. So there is a chain, right? That particular chain is called as food chain. So now let's study about the food chain in detail. See, there are different types of ecosystem. As I told you, natural ecosystem which consists of pond, lake, river, sea, etc. and artificial ecosystem like aquarium, field, etc. So here in natural ecosystem, you can see grasslands, ponds, forest, etc. So in this particular grassland, there is a food chain. Many organisms are present in the grassland, right? Many animals are present. So one animal feeds the other animal to obtain energy. So that particular chain, we are going to study it now. Now just observe, there is grass. In a grassland, obviously there will be grasses, right? So this particular deer will feed the grass, and afterwards this deer will be eaten by the lion. So there is a chain here. You can observe a chain. It is unidirectional or bidirectional. It is unidirectional chain. You can observe a unidirectional chain here. The grass is eaten by the deer and the deer is eaten by the lion. So in this chain, the food energy is transferred from grass to the deer and from the deer to the lion. Now there is one more example, that is the pond ecosystem. In pond ecosystem, there will be aquatic plants. Aquatic plants are the plants that live in water. So these aquatic plants, fish are going to eat these particular aquatic plants, and later cranes are going to eat the fishes. So here you can observe a chain, and again it is also unidirectional, and the food energy is transferred from plant to the fish and from fish to the crane. And next there is one more ecosystem, that is forest ecosystem. In forest ecosystem, you can find a lot of green plants, trees. So these green plants are eaten by the rabbit, and lion eats the rabbit. So again here you can see a chain which is unidirectional, and transfer of food energy is taking place in these examples. This is about food chain. Food chain, just remember one concept in food chain, that is one organism eating the another organism, and because of this eating process, the food energy is transferred from one level to the another level. Now you have to remember a few points here. You can see here deer eats the grass, and then lion eats the deer, right? See the next chain over here. Deer feeds on the grass, and later deer is eaten by tiger. So in these food chains, the placement of the particular organisms is very specific. I can't just place the grass to the other end, and I cannot bring the tiger over here, because deer never feeds on the tiger, right? So you should be very specific about the placement. The placement is always specific. First comes the producers and then comes the consumers. You cannot reverse it. And one more thing that you have to keep in your mind is, one particular organism can be eaten by n number of animals. Any animals which is higher than that particular organism, which is stronger than that particular organism, can come and feed this particular organism. So always it need not be lion that is going to eat the tiger. Even other organisms can also eat the deer. So different kinds of animals can feed on one particular organism. And one more important thing is, now see here, deer is present in this food chain and it is present in this food chain also. So same organism can repeat in different food chains. So grass is present in this food chain and it is present in this food chain also. So there is repetition here. So different kinds of animals can repeat in different food chains. Now we already studied about the food chain. So the next topic is food web. Now if there is a large network of food chains, then it forms the food web. Food web is nothing but interconnected food chains operating in an ecosystem which establish a network of relationships between various species is called food web. So in food web you can find a network of food chains. Many food chains are present in this particular food web. So when they are interconnected, it looks like a web. That is why it is called as a food web. Food chain is a simple one, right? You can just see one unidirectional flow of energy there. Very simple. But in this particular food web, many food chains are present in the shape of a web. They are webbed or interconnected or linked. That is why it is called as food web. So this is a food web. So you can see a number of food chains, right? Earlier we studied only one food chain, which was unidirectional. Now you can see interconnected food chains here. That's why it is called as a food web. Now see here, there are plants and mice will eat these plants and later it will be eaten by the hawk. So there is one food chain present over here, and again you can see one more food chain, that is rabbit eats the plants and later it is eaten by the hawk. So there is one more food chain over here. Now I'll show you one more food chain, that is plants. Grasshopper feeds on these plants and later frog is going to eat this grasshopper, and frog is eaten by the snake and snake is eaten by the hawk. This is one more food chain. And there is one more, seed eating bird. This will eat the plants and later it is eaten by the hawk. So this is one more food chain. So you have seen these food chains, right? Now I'll show you the interconnection here. Now the mice that is going to eat the plant, it can be eaten by the hawk as well as the snake. So you can see the interconnection here. And again now this seed eating bird, the seed eating bird is eaten by the hawk. Directly you see here. So there is a link, right? So in food web you can observe a link here. That is why it is called as a food web. Here there are a number of food chains that is present and that are interconnected. One organism can be eaten by two types of organisms. See here, mice can be eaten either by hawk or by the snake. And even snake can eat this particular seed eating bird. This is also possible. If there is a small bird, then even snake, if it is a big snake, it can obviously feed on this seed eating bird. This is about the food web. Again, once again, if I want to be more clear, food web is nothing but it is the network of food chains. You can see a network of food chains here. Now let's study about trophic levels. So trophic levels, it explains us about the different steps of the food food chain at which the transfer of food energy takes place. So you can see these are the trophic levels. So this is the first energy level, this is the second energy level, this is the third energy level, and this is the fourth energy level. So food energy is transferred from the first energy level to the second energy level, from the second energy level to the third, and from the third energy level to the fourth energy level. As I told earlier that the plants, especially the producers are nothing but the plants, they will trap only 1% of the solar energy, right? So they will trap that 1% of the solar energy that is available, and later that they will convert that solar energy into chemical energy. So once the food is prepared, obviously it will help the plant to grow, right? Now what happens if herbivores will feed on this particular producers? What is going to happen? Out of 100%, only 10% of the energy, food energy, is transferred from producers to the herbivores, only 10%. And again from this herbivores to this carnivores, again the 10% out of this 10%, suppose if it is 100%, again only 10% out of that 100% is transferred to the next level. And once again, even from this level, out of the total energy level, only 10% of food energy is transferred to the next level. I'll repeat once again to be more clear. So these are the trophic levels: first trophic level, second trophic level, third trophic level, and the fourth trophic level. So food energy is getting transferred from first energy level to the second energy level, from the second energy level to the third, and it goes on. So the percentage of food energy that is transferred is only 10%. So there is a law based on this concept, and it is called as 10% law, because out of the 100% of the energy that is obtained, only 10% is passed to the next level. Now see, from producers, if there is 100% of energy, only 10% is passed to the next. Now in this 10%, this herbivores will get only 10%. Now think, in this entire percentage of energy, whatever the herbivores have, even in this, only 10% is passed to the next level. This is called as 10% law. According to 10% law, it states that only 10% of the energy entering a particular trophic level of an organism is available for transfer to the next higher trophic level. So note this law, it is important. So this law states that only 10% of the energy that a particular trophic level is having, out of the 100%, only 10% is passed to the next higher level, and again here from out of the 100%, only 10% is passed to the next higher level. That is called as 10% law. Now I'll solve one problem. By looking at the problem, you'll get a clear explanation about the 10% law. So now there's a problem based on 10% law. So just see, there's a food chain over here: grass, mice, snake, peacock. So in this chain, 100 joules of energy is available at the producer level. Then calculate the energy transferred to the peacock as food. So you can see, mice will eat the grass, and snake is going to eat this mice, and peacock is going to eat the snake. This is the unidirectional food chain. And this food chain, they have already given 100 joules of energy is available at the producer level. So here, which is the producer? Obviously producer is the green plant, right? Always the plants which have the capacity to synthesize their own food, they always comes under producers. So here grass is the producer. If grass is the producer, then what is the energy it has? It is 100 joules. Now according to 10% law, out of 100 joules, only 10% of energy is getting transferred to the next trophic level, and the next animal is mice. Now how much energy is transferred to mice now from 100 joule? If only 10% out of 100 is given, then the 10% of 100 is obviously 10 joules. Now out of 100 joule, only 10% is passed to the next level. Now snake is going to eat this mice. Now again, according to 10% law, out of 10 joules, only 10% of the energy is transferred to the next tropic level. So out of 10 joules, only 10% means about 1 joule is passed to snake. 10% of it, out of 100%, only 10% is going to get passed. Now you can see, again when you apply 10% law, out of this 1 joule, only 10% is going to go to the next tropic level, that is 0.1 joule. I'll explain this once again. You can see in this problem they have already given about 100 joules of energy is available at the producer level. So grass is a producer and it is having 100 joules of energy. According to 10% law, out of 100%, only 10% of energy is transferred to the next tropic level. So if only 10% of the energy is transferred out of 100 joules, if it is 100%, 100 joules, we have to pass only the 10%. So 10 joules is passed to the next tropic level. Again, out of 10 joules, if you are giving only 10%, then it is 1 joule. And even here, if it in 1 joule, if it is only 10% that you are going to pass to the next tropic level, that is 0.1 joules. So you can see how the energy has been reduced. So always remember, students, in tropic levels, the energy always reduces when you go to the higher tropic levels. Always remember this. The energy always reduces when you go to the higher tropic levels. So initially it was 100 joules, and see, there it is 0.1 joule. The food, when peacock gets it is 0.1 joule. So the energy has been reduced. In tropic levels, energy always reduces when it goes to the higher tropic levels, and that reduction of energy is explained by which law? It is explained by 10% law. Now let's study about biological magnification. So biological magnification means, see, when we eat food, many times we eat so much of fruits, right? So we think that it is healthy, but do you think that it is 100% healthy? No. Why? The reason is it contains a lot of pesticides, insecticides in it, which are nothing but chemicals, and obviously they are harmful for our health, right? It is not naturally occurring. We add it to kill pests, insects, etc. So obviously it is harmful for our health also. So what happens when these pesticides and insecticides and many other chemicals get into the food chain? It causes accumulation of chemicals in the food chain in different tropic levels, and that particular concept is called as biological magnification. So in biological magnification, the increase in concentration of harmful chemical substances like pesticides in the body of living organisms at each tropic level of a food chain is called biological magnification. As I told you, we consume a lot of pesticides, insecticides nowadays. Why do we consume is, it's not purposely, but automatically they get entered in our food chain. When they grow different kinds of crops, they will add those pesticides. When we eat that particular crop, then that is transferred to our body and accumulated in our body. So biological magnification explains about accumulation of those chemicals in different tropic levels. Now you see here, for producers like plants, they'll apply a lot of insecticides and lots of chemicals, right? So when they are applying a lot of chemicals, then it is transferred to herbivores, from herbivores to carnivores, from carnivores to top carnivores, and we are at the top of the food chain. So by consuming all kinds of organisms that are present at the lower tropic levels, we will be the ones who is having highest amount of pesticides or insecticides within us. The concentration of these insecticides and pesticides goes on increasing in the food chain. Always biological magnification increases in the food chain. It will not decrease like how energy was decreased. It is going to increase. It is a reverse of energy. In tropic levels, I told you in the previous concept that the energy is decreasing when you go higher. in the trophic levels. But here biological magnification, it is the reverse of that. The chemicals get accumulated more and more when it goes to the higher trophic level. So the accumulation of chemicals is more in higher trophic levels than the lower trophic levels. The reason is, you see, producers are more in number, right? This herbivore, if it is a cow or a cat or something like that, cow especially, not cat. So cow, if it is going to feed on this particular producer, will it eat only one plant or only two plants? No, it is going to eat more than one or two plants, right? More than that. So when it is going to eat more number of plants, more number of insecticides and pesticides will get accumulated in its body, and after that it is eaten by carnivores, and later it is eaten by herbivores. So when the trophic level goes on increasing, what happens? The chemicals automatically, it will get accumulated more and more in the body, and because of that biological magnification is seen in the organisms that are at the top level, top trophic level. And this is not at all good for our health also. Because of this, we are facing a lot of health issues. So we consume a lot of plants, right? Plants, fruits, vegetables, etc. These will obviously contain a lot of pesticides, insecticides in it. So what is the best method of reducing this biological magnification? The best method is to use organic foods or organic food or vegetables that is obtained. How are you going to get it? By using natural fertilizers, natural manures. It is possible for us to get healthy food. So because of that, we can reduce this biological magnification that is present in the food chain. Students, many a times you might have heard your grandparents saying that when they were young, the environment was too good, and now the environment is not at all good. We are facing a lot of pollutions, right? Have you heard? So in this chapter, we'll study a detailed account about the environment and about the garbage disposal and major problems that we are facing because of various kinds of human interventions in the environment.